Congratulations on the purchase of your brand new Stellar Sewing Workstation. Today's video is going to have 4 segments to it. The segments are going to be segment number 1, which is hardware. Segment number 2, we will go over the pieces and the parts. Segment number 3, we will go over the tools that are required. And section number 4 will be the actual assembly. Now today I have with me Nate. He's going to help me out. He actually is the ones that builds these tables and manufactures these tables, so he knows how to do this with pinpoint precision. Let's get started. In segment number 1, we're going to go over all of the hardware that you need to assemble your sewing workstation. Nate?
You have your locking washers and your nuts to go with your casters. You have 2 non-locking casters. You have 2 locking casters. These are the bolts that attach your stabilizer bars. This is your cable management. These are 2 shoulder bolts with nuts that go with your hinges. You have your screws for assembling your table. You have your 4 nuts and bolts to attach your actuators, your 6-inch actuators. Then you have your pigtails, your power supply, and then your remote.
In segment number 2, we were going to go over all the pieces and all the parts that you're going to get for your sewing table. So you're going to get 5 boxes. One box is going to have the 2 table runners, looks just like this. The other one looks just like this. And you're also going to get the 2 stabilizing bars. So that's going to be the first box. If we want to move that one. You will get the platform. And in the box that has your platform will have your wheels and all the hardware that it will take to assemble your table. That will be the second box. You will get 1 leg for one side of the table. And then in box number 4, you will get the other leg for the other side of the table. And then box number 5, you will get the tabletop. These are going to be the 5 boxes that you need to assemble your table. For segment number 3, we are going to go over the tools that are required to assemble your Stellar Sewing Workstation. Nate, if you don't mind.
We have a drill. You have a number 3 Phillips. You have a number 2 Phillips. You have a 5/32 Allen. You have a 3/16 Allen. You have a 1/2 inch wrench, and you have a 7/16 inch wrench.
In segment number 4, we are going to go over the assembly. We are going to start off with the platform. We're going to go as slow and be as very detailed as possible so you understand how to put this table together. It's very simple, but we're going to get started with the platform. Nate, if you don't mind.
You have your platform base, and then you have your 2 ends. You're going to grab your end, put it in place, grab some of your screws, and you're going to start by attaching the ends first. Once you have that end done, you'll come down here to this end and you'll do the same thing.
While he's screwing that in, I want everybody to notice when you put your ends in, make sure the fat part goes out. You're going to be able to tell that by the bevel you have in the screw hole. So the fat part goes out. This fat part goes out. The round part goes out on either side.
Now once you have the ends, flip it over, and you still have to put these screws in the very end. Now that you have that done, your platform is completely assembled.
In section number 2 of assembly, we are going to go ahead and assemble the 6-inch actuators to the bottom of the tabletop. You will need a 7/16 inch wrench, you will need the 2 6-inch actuators, and you will need the 2 bolts with the 2 nuts to go ahead and apply it to the 6-inch actuators, and then of course your drill. Nate?
If you take your actuators, I take the motor end and I put it on the outside. You grab 1 nut and 1 bolt. You want to notice that there are 4 holes drilled in the top of your table. You're going to want the Phillips head side of your bolt to be on that side. Line it up, push it through. Then you grab your nut, put it on, and then tighten it up. Now you're going to repeat the steps on this side of the table. You got your 4 holes on the table, and you want your Phillips head bolt to go in from that side. Grab your nut, put it on. Thank you. And tighten it down.
Again, can we reiterate one more time? So where you see the 4 holes, that is the direction that you're going to put each bolt. So the Phillips head bolt goes this way, and on this side, the Phillips head bolt goes that way. In section number 3, we are going to attach the machine platform to the table. Go ahead and take the platform. You're going to turn it like this. You're going to put the actuator up. Set it, there's a little circle right there, and then you just push down on it. And it locks right in place. Nate, if you would.
Now, you're going to have these 2 blocks that are going to attach your platform to your tabletop. You'll notice a groove cut into the block that is attached to your platform. You're going to take your block and put it right down on top of it. You're going to repeat the steps on this end. You're going to notice in the end of where your actuator is attached, where that little circle is, there's a little hole on each end. You're going to grab one of your screws and you're going to start it in that hole on both ends. Take your drill and tighten it up. These don't need to be really tight, you just want to snug them. Just to reiterate, when you're attaching your screw into the end of your block here where your actuator's coming up, you do not need to over tighten it. Just make it snug. Next, we're going to grab our tabletop and we're going to slide it to the end of the table to where this piece is hanging off the edge of the table. The reason for that is those 4 screw holes that we were talking about earlier are going to hold this block on. So grab your screws and you're going to want to get underneath and then fasten them. Now once those are in, you're going to want to slide the table down to the other side and repeat the steps.
In the next section, we are going to remove the 6-inch actuator that is on the back side of our leg, and we're going to do that for both legs.
You're going to notice that there's 2 screws holding it on. One holds the bracket to the table, the other one holds the actuator on. You're going to want to choose the top one to pull just the actuator off. Now you have both 6-inch actuators off of your legs.
In the next segment, we're going to take those 6-inch actuators that we just removed from each leg, and we're going to go ahead and attach it to the bottom side of the tabletop.
You're going to need your drill and your 7/16" wrench, your 2 bolts, and 2 nuts. Now for this, you're going to take your motor and you're going to keep the motor side on the back. You're going to take your bolt and your Allen's head or your Phillips head is going to be on the outside, and you're going to push it towards the middle of the table. Then you grab your nut, you put it on. Then you just snug it down.
And you're going to do the same exact thing to the other side. Here you go, sir.
Thank you. You put your nut on. And just snug it down. These will be able to move back and forth.
Again, one thing that we want to reiterate with this too is make sure you put the bolt with the head moving in towards the table, and on that side it goes in towards the table. So the bolts are going towards each other and the nuts are going on the inside of the table, and the head of the bolt is going to be on the outside of the table. In the next segment, we're going to go over putting our hinges to the bottom side of our tabletop. Nate, if you would.
You're going to have your 2 hinges, and then you're going to have 4 of your screws to attach. You have a rounded side of your hinge. You want that facing the outside of the table. I poke my screw through just a little bit and get it lined up with my hole. And once that's on, you're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. Once again, you're going to make sure that the rounded side is towards the outside. Get my 2 screws started. You just want to snug those down and then you're ready to roll.
In this segment, we're going to go ahead and attach each leg to each side of the table. Very, very important to know that the actual 14-inch actuator faces the outside of the table. Here you go, Nate.
Now you're going to notice there's a knob on the front side of your table. You're going to line it up with your hinge that was in the front. You're going to grab your shoulder bolt from the outside of the table, pushing in, line it up. Get your nut on there. You're going to want your 1/2-inch wrench. And you just want to snug it up. You're going to do the same thing on this other side.
Now, when you're putting these legs on, I do want to show everybody that the 14-inch actuator right here has a cord. We went ahead and put this little hole right here so you can run your actuator cord through. So we're just going to go ahead and do that real quick because you don't want to pinch the cords when you're tightening anything up. So take the cord and you put it through that hole and you pull it all the way through the other side. And now you can go ahead and take the leg, flip it like so. Making sure that cord goes right through that hole. There you go, Nate.
Okay. Yep. Now you're going to line your knob up with your hinge again. You'll notice there's a hole. You're going to put your shoulder bolt in there. That'll go right through. Grab your nut, place it on there. And then snug it down. Next, we're going to attach our actuators that we had already taken off of our leg. We're going to attach them back to the same mounting locations. You're going to use the same hardware that you used when you took it out. Once again, you don't want to over tighten anything. You just want to snug everything up.
In the next section, we're going to go ahead and put the 2 table aprons on, and we're also going to put the 2 stabilizer bars on. Now, this is important. You have to put the right apron on the right side of the table. You're going to see a little slot right there. The apron that has the little slot is going to attach on the front side of the table. The front side of the table. And you're going to use the simple silver screws to go ahead and attach it to each side.
These holes were already pre-drilled, so all you have to do is just line them up. Once you get those 3 on, you're going to come over and you're going to do the same thing on this side. Push it in, line everything up. Once that's in, you're going to move to the back side of the table and you're going to do the same thing with this runner. I go ahead and get all 3 started on the one end. Grab your last 3 screws, get them started in the hole. Then you just pull up. Now that you have your aprons on, you're going to grab your 2 pipes. When you go to attach your 2 pipes, you're going to grab the 2 holes on the inside closest to the actuator. I get my 2 screws started. Snug it up. I get my 2 screws started on the outside. Line it up. Snug it up.
In the next section, we're going to go ahead and do the power box, and we're also going to do the cable management. This will require the number 2 Phillips head. Go ahead, sir.
Your power supply has 3 pigtails sticking out of it. Each pigtail has a connector to join with one of your actuators. So you have these 2 slides on the back side of your power supply. It is going to slide on to your power bracket, and it locks in place. For the next step, you're going to start connecting all of your connectors on your power supply with the connectors that are on each actuator. We'll start with your 2 6-inch that are attached to your legs. Plug your connector in, and then it's got a little safety clip to keep it locked in place, so that way it can't come undone. Now, you're going to make sure that both of your 6-inch actuators are plugged into the same pigtail. Let's set that aside for now. Now we're going to move on to the next one. The next one is going to be your 6-inch actuators that are attached to your boxes. It connects the exact same way, locks it into place. Now that you have that done, all you have left is your 14-inch actuators, which are going to be the ones on the outside of your legs. For easy hookup, all your cables are going to be color coordinated. Both your 14-inch actuators will be one color. Both of your 6-inch for your blocks will be the different color. And then the 6-inch on your legs will be a third color. You just want to make sure that they get hooked up together. Now grab your 14-inch actuator from this leg and attach it here on your last connector. Now all of your pigtails are connected, and they should look like that. Now we're going to do cable management. When you're doing the cable management, you want to make sure that none of your cables are in a pinch point, like with your box here in the middle. You don't want them to get pinched to where it severs the cord. And the same thing with this on the back, because it will tilt up. So you want to make sure that you're not having any pinch points. On the back side of your table, you're going to notice that there's a metal track running down the length of the table. And this metal track is where we're going to put our cables to help keep them out of the way. I grab these clips and I put them down in that track to hold my cables in place so they don't pop out. And they just snap down in. Once I start one, I just work my way down the track. I go about 12 inches to 14 inches and put another clip. When you're wiring your cables for your wire management, on your 14-inch actuators, make sure that they are going through the slot on the bottom of the table. you'll notice that there's a groove cut for that cable to come through. You do not want to go underneath the leg because it will get smashed and pinched, and you do not want that. What I would do is I would suggest, now that you have all your pigtails plugged in and everything connected together, I would unplug them from the power supply like this. This will cause it to be easier to cable manage where you need to, because this can be a little bit of a hassle, but it is very important to get it right. I pull those 3 ends off to the side. You have your clips and your little screws. This is what you're going to use to cable manage everything. Make sure you don't pinch any of your cables, and then hunt that down. Now, on the back side, you still have these 3 cables unplugged. You're going to start and just plug them back in. If they don't want to go in at first, just wiggle them just a little bit, and then they will pop right into place. Now that you have those in, all you've got left is to strap down these 3 cords. You will have extras of these in your hardware in case you want to use more to strap everything down. When you're doing your cable management, you want to make sure you're keeping it in the metal track in the back with your clips in it to help hold the cables down, and make sure you're staying away from your gap where your platform is. This can cause pinching, and you can sever your cable. You do not want that.
In the last section, before we turn the table over and we test it, is going to be the wheels. You have 2 locking casters. The locking casters are going to go to the front of the table. Make sure the wheels are facing up. If your table is upside down, make sure your wheels are facing up. And then you have 2 non-locking casters that go on the back. It's going to be the same thing. And the very last thing that we are going to do is we are going to flip our table over, and we're going to insert our ruler and our cutting mat, and then we're going to be ready to test the table. The very last thing that we are going to do before we test our table is put the last pieces and parts in. This is our clear ruler that's going to go right in that slot, the front edge of your table, right where that ruler slot is. We're also going to put our 12 by 12 translucent cutting mat in where the cutting mat goes. And the last but not least, you're going to get several white caps. You're going to see several screw holes right here throughout all the tabletop. You simply put those white caps right on top of the screw hole, and then you just punch it down with the rubber mallet or with your fingers. Just push them down right into that screw hole, and then it covers all of the screw holes for you. But that's going to be the very last thing you do before we test it. So let's go ahead and test it, Nate.
On your remote, you'll notice that there's 3 rows of buttons. Since you plugged everything into pigtails, this will control your 14-inch actuators up and down. One will control your 6-inch actuators tilting the table forward, and then the other one will move your platform up and down. The top row is moving your table up and down. That is your 14-inch actuators on the sides. Now let's go down to the second row of buttons. That is tilting your table towards you. This is your 6-inch actuators on the inside of your legs. Now last is going to be your platform. If you notice, your platform is lowering down into the table.
One thing I do want to mention on your platform, you're going to notice a hole there. So once your sewing machine is on your platform, the cord, your power cord, will go through that hole. And the very last thing I want to mention about your sewing machine platform is make sure that you have your machine pad set on your platform before you put your sewing machine on there. So your no slip pad, and then your sewing machine goes on that, and then the power cord goes through the hole. Now, congratulations. If you've bought your Stellar table and you've got to this point, you are all ready to go. Make sure you enjoy it and tell your friends.